Ever wonder how a medicine actually makes it from the stroke of a doctor's pen straight into your system? I mean, we all interact with medications at some point, right? But rarely do we stop to think about the incredible logistics and, frankly, the intense science behind how a simple pill or a complex IV drip actually does its job. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to completely unpack the medical toolkit.
Here is our game plan for today. We've got 5 main topics. 1. Forms and formulations. 2. Administration routes. 3. Drug delivery tools. 4. IVs and calculations. And finally, 5. Prescription anatomy.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, Forms and Formulations. Basically, what exactly are we putting into our bodies?
Well, medicines fundamentally come in 4 dosage formulations. First up, we've got solids. You know the drill, your everyday tablets, powders, and capsules. Then we have liquids, which cover everything from medical suspensions to heavy syrups. Next are the semi-solids. Think of thick ointments that stay on your skin for a long time because of their high oil content, or creams, which are much more water-soluble. And lastly, gaseous forms. These are primarily used in inhalers to target your respiratory system for near-instant absorption. But get this, not all solids are created equal. You might look at a handful of pills and assume they just do the same thing in the exact same way. In reality, their engineering is incredibly distinct. Some are just basic powders housed in a gelatin capsule, while others are meticulously coated. For instance, a drug like metronidazole has a simple sugar coating, mostly just to mask a bitter taste, but other coatings serve a much more critical purpose.
That critical purpose? It's basically chemical armor, known as an enteric coating. It does one of 2 things. It either protects your stomach from a potentially harsh, irritating drug like aspirin, or, actually flip that around, it protects a super-sensitive drug, like erythromycin, from being destroyed by your harsh stomach acid before it even has a chance to be absorbed in the small intestine. It's literally a localized delivery system built right into the pill itself. Pretty cool, right? Moving right along to Section 2, administration routes. How is this stuff actually entering the body?
Think of these injection routes like different types of roads. An intradermal shot, which is often used for things like the BCG vaccine, is kind of like taking a local side street. It requires a really shallow 10 to 15 degree angle to get just barely under the skin of the upper arm or chest. Then you have a subcutaneous injection, which goes a bit deeper into the fatty tissue at a 45 to 90 degree angle. But an intramuscular shot? That's a direct express route, requiring a firm 90 degree angle to completely bypass the skin and fat, delivering medicine straight into the muscle tissue. Now, delivering medicine to that deeper muscle highway requires some serious precision. You can't just jab and push. A huge part of this procedure is pulling back on the syringe's plunger before actually injecting the medication. Why? Because the healthcare provider has to check for blood. If blood appears in the syringe, it means they've accidentally hit a blood vessel instead of the muscle. And if that happens, scratch that, they have to withdraw, completely change the needle, and start over to guarantee the drug goes exactly where it's supposed to. That firm 90-degree insertion is an absolute must for prime sites like the deltoid in your arm or the gluteus muscles. This deep, direct route is entirely necessary for specific types of medications that have to be absorbed straight into the muscle tissue. Things like certain antibiotics or synthetic hormones. Okay, on to Section 3, Drug Delivery Tools. Let's look at the actual hardware of healing.
Think of the syringe as your basic transport vehicle. It consists of the plunger, the barrel that actually holds the liquid, and the needle. The little slant at the very tip of the needle is called the bevel, and that always needs to face upward during a puncture to ensure a smooth entry. Now, here's a totally wild, kind of counterintuitive fact about needle sizes. They're measured in something called gauges, and the larger the gauge number, the smaller the actual diameter of the needle. So a 30-gauge needle is actually way thinner than a 19-gauge needle. So where are we drawing these liquids from? Providers typically pull from one of 2 containers. The first is an ampule. It's made entirely of glass and is strictly single-use. You literally have to snap the glass top completely off to get to the medicine inside, which perfectly protects sensitive chemicals from the air. The second option is a multi-use vial. This one has a rubber cap that a needle can safely puncture multiple times, making it the go-to for medications you need to draw from repeatedly. But hey, the toolkit isn't just syringes. We've got a whole variety of specialized devices. There are discrete insulin pens, which are incredibly accurate, though they absolutely must be kept refrigerated because insulin is a peptide. For gaseous drugs, we rely on inhalers, sometimes paired with spacers to make them a lot easier for kids or the elderly to manage. And for severe respiratory issues, nebulizers can actually turn liquid medication into an aerosol mist, allowing for fully customized continuous breathing treatments.
That brings us to Section 4, IVs and calculations. Welcome to the world of continuous delivery.
You know that setup you always see hanging beside a hospital bed? It's called a giving set, and two parts are especially crucial. First, the drip chamber, that clear plastic tube at the top that lets the nurse visually confirm the fluid is actually flowing drop by drop. Right below that is the roller clamp. By rolling it up or down, the nurse physically pinching the tubing. It acts as a highly sensitive throttle to dial in the exact, precise flow of the medication.
But how fast should that IV actually drip? This isn't just guesswork. It's a precise mathematical puzzle that nurses solve every single day. Let's say a doctor orders 1,500 milliliters of saline to be given over 12 hours, and let's say the IV tubing being used has a drop factor of 15, which just means it takes exactly 15 drops to equal 1 milliliter. To set that roller clamp correctly, we have to figure out exactly how many drops must fall per minute.
So, let's do the math. We take the total volume, 1,500, and multiply it by the drop factor of 15. Then we divide that number by the total time in minutes, which is 12 hours times 60 minutes. Run those numbers, and it comes out to exactly 31 drops per minute. A nurse will literally stand there with a watch, adjusting that roller clamp until exactly 31 drops fall into the chamber every 60 seconds, all to safely hydrate the patient.
Finally, we hit Section 5, Prescription Anatomy, the doctor's orders. A valid prescription isn't just a casual suggestion. It's a strict, legally binding recipe. It absolutely must contain specific core elements. It needs the generic name of the drug, the exact formulation, is it a tablet or an IV fluid, the strength or dose, the exact frequency of how often it should be taken, and exactly how long the treatment should last. The whole shebang.
Ever tried to decipher a doctor's handwriting? It's like a giant puzzle. But let's break down a real-world example from Muhimbili National Hospital. Despite the famously hurried handwriting, all the elements are mapped out right there. The item prescribed is IV quinine. The dose is 600 milligrams. The formulation details exactly how to mix it, right into 500 milliliters of 5% dextrose. And the frequency, right there, 8 hourly times 3/7. It provides a complete, foolproof roadmap for the pharmacy and the nurses. So the next time you're staring at a standard pill bottle on your bathroom counter or watching an IV bag slowly drip next to a hospital bed, I want you to remember everything we unpacked today. Think about the chemical armor protecting that pill, the specific, calculated angle of the needle that delivered it, and the immense precision and math working tirelessly in the background. It literally takes an entire system of science just to get that exact dose into your body. So, what does knowing all this actually change for you the next time you step into a pharmacy or a clinic? I'll leave you to think on that. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.